There's been a trend lately of anti comic book store sentiment. The latest is this guy from Comics Explained who basically posted that why are people trying to save comic shops? Well, let's answer that. Hey there, this is Perch. It's an interesting trend I'm noticing, particularly of people who have YouTube channels or started, I don't know, more than 4 years ago, and they basically often have a similar response. And I guess this is unfair. There are plenty of older YouTube. It's not all the YouTube channels. I just want to be clear. It's just that this sentiment seems to come out from a certain demographic, if you will, of YouTube channel people who've made their money. You know, they got in early and now they have 50,000 subscribers or more, and they're cranking out videos. And in a lot of cases, they feel really out of touch with comics. They have a lot of knowledge, they have history of comics, but their core, their anchor is around YouTube and digital and those things, and not around the comic shop. In fact, if anything, you see kind of this attitude start to infiltrate their videos that feels like the comic shop is a nuisance. That it's something that I have to drag myself to that crappy comic shop place to buy those paper comics. It'd be a whole lot easier if I could just sit in my living room or my constructed studio in my basement and make these videos and just have the comics delivered to the computer. And I'm doing that anyway because chances are I'm pirating most of these things. But I'd rather it be legit and not worry about getting caught. I'm sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there. Anyway, so like I said, the latest is this guy from Comics Explained, and it's basically his comment was, why in the world are people trying to save comics in the age of smartphones and tablets? Why is so much emphasis put on keeping physical comic book stores alive? And I think this is obviously I think this is a super dumb statement. And it's a dumb statement for several reasons. The first is I'd like to, and most importantly, what is all this emphasis on keeping physical comic book stores alive? Am I missing the parade? Am I missing the big promotion that's going on in Marvel and DC right now? Are they running ads? When I went to see Avengers Endgame, was there a bunch of ham-fisted promotion for comic shops? Was there any promotion for comic shops? I mean, I noticed a couple days ago that My Hero Academia, if you buy the Blu-ray, there's a little insert there saying, "Did you like the video? Go buy the manga. Find your local shop." I don't know. I've never seen that in a Marvel film. I've never seen that in a DC film. I've never seen anything like that in Western movies and that type of promotion. I'm sure there's something there, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something. But again, what's all this emphasis? Why is so much emphasis put on keeping physical comic stores alive? I mean, are we talking about Jim Zub saying support your local comic shop? Is that the emphasis we're talking about? What else would he say? Support comicology? Is that what he? I mean, and they do say that. So what are people talking about here? It's very, there's the whole premise here that there's people walking around talking about saving comic shops. It's just that forget about whether you should or shouldn't save comic shops. It's what is this guy even talking about? I'm completely confused by this. And then on top of that, in the age of smartphones and tablets, are people reading comics on smartphones? Or is the premise here that in addition to delivery to digital, the comic also needs to change completely and writers and artists should start drawing to the smartphone? I've had this argument before and kind of said this exact same thing. And the response is, bingo. Yeah, comics should completely be different. Comics should be more like Twitter. Like, okay, I mean, I guess if that's what you want to consume, fine. But go to your smartphone, go to Google image search and just start kind of flipping around with images. Is that the comic people want? It's not the comic I want. But hey, if that's what the crowd wants, then go forward, my friend. Get some venture funding, make a business, become a billionaire because you've cracked the system and delivered the amazing smartphone experience that everybody wants. Go for it. I don't know. I'd be shocked if that was the case. And in terms of tablets, yeah, it'd be great if everybody had a tablet. I mean, I'd love that. I mean, part of the work I do is on tablets, so I'd be, spread them around. But the thing is, the population anywhere in the world, they can't afford, they can't massively afford tablets. If we're complaining about a 4.99 comic, and that being too much of a price barrier, do we want to have a 4.99 comic and need to afford a $800 tablet? And people are quick to say, "Oh no, you can buy like Android tablets on a on a sale for like $200." Okay, super. Is even $50 added to a monthly comic bill something people are jumping at the bit for? I don't think so. So the problem is, in the age of smartphone and tablets, that age isn't here. Not for comics. Yes, people are buying phones. Yes, people are buying tablets. Some people. But there's not mass adoption of tablets, and phones are not a good vehicle to read comics on for the vast majority of people. So unless we say that we want to completely change comics in the way they are, which you can say that and we can go down that path, they're not there today. So this isn't the age of smartphone and tablets for comics. So this whole comment is ridiculous. And let alone the final bit. Look, from my perspective, let's not save comic shops. Sure. But where are the comics going to go? There's not a space right now. So rather than say, hey, let's burn it all down and then hope for the best later, how about we flip it the other direction? How about we get comics other places? The Walmart idea was a great one. Yes, some comic store owners complained, not many though. The majority were happy that comics were in other places. And if you could return the newsstand, great. If people actually start going into brick and mortar stores, great. I mean, why not? Let's get comics into Walden Books and B. Dalton's and Borders. Oh, those places are all gone. So where are comics going to go? I think newsstands would be a great idea. Put it in gas stations because, yeah, lots of people go into gas stations these days. They certainly don't pay at the pump and go on about their way. I mean, what's the plan here? Let's have comics in Starbucks. That sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. Lots of people go into Starbucks. I want more distribution. I do. I'd like to see comics more places. But people need to answer the where. What are these places? Because today, if you took away the local comic shop, the comic industry tanks. I've said many times that people who are alarmists who talk about, oh, the comic industry is going to implode, those people are being ridiculous. Yeah, I think in a lot of cases, those comments are ridiculous. But one that isn't is remove the local comic shop. The comic industry goes away. Yeah, there'll be people producing web comics, little indie stuff, but it vanishes. And that's a really terrible thing. Not it vanishing, the fact that the industry has got itself into this point where it's so reliant on comic shops. Become less reliant on comic shops. I think that would be a good plan. You know who that would also benefit? The local comic shops. The newsstand being healthy and flourishing and comics getting more advertising, more marketing, getting into hands of more people has a back end effect of bringing more people into comic shops. That's been proven over and over and over, both here and in Japan. Comics more places equals more buyers. More buyers equals more interest, and more interest means more business for comic shops. I'd like comic shops to be powerful and healthy. Absolutely. I don't want them to be powerful and healthy because they're the only place that can sell this product and their survival is hanging on a thread and totally dependent on the whims of a guy like David Gabriel or people at Marvel or DC who are randomly coming up with promotions. That's what comics needs to be. So for what it's worth, I mean, you can respond to tweets all the time. And I don't do videos responding to tweets on a regular basis or really ever. It's probably the first. But my video here is not about that one guy's comment. I see this sentiment come up from time to time, and it's ridiculous and stupid. Just my opinion. You can certainly feel a different way, that you're right. But if you're going to have this opinion, at least think through some of the things I mentioned in the last 10 minutes. At least a couple. Because otherwise, you're just spouting nonsense, like this guy is. Hey, what do you think? Leave a comment. What am I missing? If I'm wrong, educate me. I'd be happy to be educated. And by the way, the people in I made a comment. Somebody's like, "Oh, that's because you're a communist." Just learn what communism is. Stop throwing these words around. Be it communist, Nazi, whatever it happens to be. Educate yourself of what you're trying to say before you say it. Uh, no, nobody's asking for state-sponsored comic book shops. It's absurd. Just saying. Fix the business, man. Fix the business. Hey, leave me a comment below. Like, subscribe. Don't bother with notifications; they're annoying. And thanks for listening.